Mr. Steube.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador Tai, in your recent testimony before the Senate Finance Committee, you dodged questions related to whether the administration was taking a go-it-alone course in trade negotiations, leaving out Congress and not making deals public before signing them. Senator Crapo and Senator Wyden both pushed you for a commitment to seek congressional approval and make the terms of deals public, but you could not give such a commitment. What we have seen time and again from the Biden administration is an unprecedented lack of transparency, even on issues where there might be room for bipartisan consensus. Much of your office's work should be bipartisan. A lot in Congress is one team versus the other, but when it comes to trade, that's not always the case. And that's why it's so surprising that we are running into this lack of transparency. Whether it's critical mineral agreements, potatoes, or citrus from my state, Congress needs to be informed, my constituents need to be informed, and the American people need to be informed. Along the lines of citrus, I have a question for you. Does the U.S. allow for the importation of Chinese citrus?
Congressman, I have to say that I really have to object to
Okay, well, the answer to that question is yes, they do. You do allow for the importation of Chinese citrus. And do you know roughly how much, or do you want me to answer that question for you too?
Well, this is a hearing, but since you've answered the first question, why don't you go ahead and answer?
Sure, okay. 26.8 million tons of Chinese citrus is imported into the United States roughly every year. We shouldn't be importing Chinese citrus to the detriment of U.S. producers. I actually had a bill last Congress that would ban the importation of Chinese citrus because of the challenges that faces, not just from a production standpoint, but from a disease standpoint. And I intend to do that again this year. What is your office specifically doing to promote American citrus?
There's a lot that we're doing to promote American citrus. In fact, I believe that in Vietnam, we have just gotten approval for the first shipments of American grapefruits to Vietnam. So that's one example of something that we've been doing with USDA. In another area, we have been working closely with seasonal produce and fruit growers in the Southeast to address serious import concerns that they have by setting up a committee to allow them to provide us with advice and recommendations specifically with respect to their interests. So I care a lot about our farmers and our producers, including the citrus growers, and if you have concerns with respect to the imports and the export opportunities, I'm happy to talk to you about those.
Does the Chinese Communist Party do they adhere to the same regulations that our domestic producers have to adhere to here in the United States, related to labor, EPA, all of the things that our domestic producers are abiding by?
I mean, I think that part of the bigger question you're getting at is our trade relationship with China reciprocal, and does it feel fair?
No, I'm specifically talking about citrus right
and
now.
on citrus, I mean, yes, you are talking about citrus, but I think it is linked to this larger issue, which is that—
Well, it's not when you're bringing in cichlids from China that then infect American citrus with canker and other diseases that then are at detriment from the health and safety and welfare of our groves. I don't understand why that's funny, that you think it's okay to allow the importation of Chinese citrus to the detriment of Florida farmers and ranchers that grow citrus every single day. We've lost, I mean, all you have to do is look at the numbers, the boxes of production because of greening and the diseases have been brought in from China. So I'm specifically talking about citrus, and I'm specifically concerned about the importation of Chinese citrus to the detriment of our production in America, specifically Florida, because the majority of citrus that goes into juice comes from the state of Florida.
So let's talk about this. We work very closely with USDA and APHIS, and I think there's a conversation to be had, which I don't think needs to be oppositional.
Okay.